Welcome to the Stronger Together podcast, brought to you by Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning. I'm your coach, Kenny Marquardt. Today, I am joined by Tim Corcoran, who is the owner of Twin Eagles Wilderness Outdoor Schools. Pretty sure I just messed up the name, but Tim's a fantastic guy. He, as you're gonna hear about during his initial consultation, I think I peppered him with questions more about what he does and who he is and what that represents and how that affects the youth, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, he's just a really, really, really great guy. He runs a tremendous program, which we'll talk about. And I really think you're going to enjoy listening to what he has to say. Whenever Tim starts talking, well, hopefully I do this with everybody, but I like to stop and listen because what he's about to say is going to be something important. So, listen in. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, we are brought to you by Momentous Supplements. If you go to livemomentous.com and use the discount code Sandpoint Strength, all one word, you will get 15% off of your order. All right, enjoy. Tim, welcome.
Thanks, Kenny. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled to be doing this. I kind of giggle, and in fact I tell the story to some people about how you started at the gym. I think you came in for a consult, and I think I bothered you for about 45 minutes about what you do for work. And I don't think I told you anything about the gym. But I was just like, it was just one of those fast, like, all right, we're going to be buddies. Like, I love what you've got to say. I love what you're doing. Like, let's, and so I think you started there shortly thereafter, despite my, my own, you might have been turned off by my, like, what is he? He's just telling me.
No, man, I was stoked to have somebody I could connect with, Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. Good. Glad to hear it. I always like to ask people what prompted them to get started, how they found us and those kind of questions, which I do believe I know, but I'd love to share that with the folks out there.
Of course. So it's interesting, for me, Kenny, I've never been a big gym guy. I've focused on working out or anything like that. I mean, I can remember back to high school, I was the guy who wanted to stay as far away from the gym as possible. And, I'm 51 now. I think I was 49 when I started. And really what prompted it was a health concern. I had gone to my doctor. She told me I had high cholesterol. She wanted to put me on prescription meds, I think statins. And didn't even think about lifestyle changes. And I was like, no way am I going to start on meds. I've got to give this a good, honest shot at, getting this under control through lifestyle changes. And that's really what motivated me to get into the gym. And I also, cleaned up my diet at that point and made some pretty big changes. That was the big motivator. I can't say it was anything else besides that. But I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And that's the other part of that, I've come to know you fairly well, and you're a pretty healthy character. It's not like you're
right.
And for those of you listening and who haven't met Tim, he's not, he's kind of a picture of health at 51. I think you're pretty. So, anyways, I don't know, the fact that somebody wants to plug you into meds right away without some other stuff. So.
And I think it's a genetic thing. I think it goes through my family line, especially my dad's side. After a year, I got retested and my numbers were down. There's a whole conversation about kind of the modern doctor's perspective on what high cholesterol is versus a more holistic perspective. I worked with a nutritionalist who helped reframe that for me and helped show me actually it wasn't as bad as that original doctor had suggested in the first place. But it was a great reason to get healthy and get in the gym.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that the way I've heard it likened, so traditionally people hear about, the HDL, LDL, LDL being the bad, and there's some other numbers that are becoming more to the forefront of understanding, one of which is a number called ApoB.
Yes.
And LP little a are the other ones that most physicians that I've known will not even test for or talk about.
Right.
And they're just looking at the HDL, LDL, which I've heard compared to looking at BMI or body mass index without consideration of actual body fat. So like there's that third number where I've tested as obese as in BMI. I think I actually still technically am.
Wow.
At under 10% body fat. But again, that's just that like third and fourth number in the cholesterol is an important one to know for most, which isn't addressed. So anyway, a bit of an aside, but I think it's an important thing and most people do not know. So
yeah, there's a bigger picture though that's important to look at.
Yeah,
that's the point.
I think some of our bonding with that initial thing was from what I remember too, it was about packing elk off of mountains, and I was like,
yes.
All right, you have found
this guy belongs
your guy. Saddle up, buddy. Like we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man. That was part of it too. I do remember telling you that. I'm a recent new elk hunter. I just started. Gosh, I don't know, 2020. And somehow I managed to get into that elite club of successful elk hunters, and I've brought an elk home the past several years. But yeah, man, I mean, I'd be up there 6 miles up in the mountains, off trail, backcountry. You know, you're an elk hunter, and the physical exertion. Well, not just packing the elk out. I mean, certainly that's significant. But in my case, I think what felt more significant was having the sustained capacity to get up there and climb the mountain every day for a week straight and push my body, you know, at 50 years old, you know, I'm not 30 anymore. And it's not the same. I mean, I run a wilderness school. I know we're going to talk about all that. And so I'm outside a lot, but elk hunting is a whole nother beast. And I really wanted to feel more capable. I mean, every time I would hike up that mountain, chase an elk, I would feel my physical edge and just like, man, I really want to increase my capacity. And coming to Sandpoint Strength and Conditioning has been so helpful on that front. Yeah.
Oh, good. Except I think did we ruin your streak? Now the training for elk hunting now ruined your streak of elk success?
I didn't get one this last fall. I was ultra close. I was moments away. The whole story there. But that's okay. That's okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. I didn't want to hope that was not a catalyst for.
You're now
in this ultimate shape, and we put the kibosh on your success rate. That's
right.
You had a phenomenal story about, which I'm not sure if you want to share, because it's one of those stories that I was able to hear around a campfire, which was I think the perfect venue for that. Would you want to share that story? The
first elk.
Me? Yes.
I could do an abbreviated version. That can be a long story.
Yeah, for sure. But it's a great. I mean, this I think will frame up the context of like who you are, and I think where. I mean, again, from some of the stuff you've shared, like you're in good shape. You've done a lot of impressive things in the backcountry. You spend all of your time there, and yet I think it was still transformative for you to do some of this stuff in the gym. Yeah. So I think that story's well worth sharing. Again, the abbreviated version is pretty remarkable.
Happy to. Yeah. So, so I've been hunting for about 12 years. Started with deer hunting about 12 years ago. Lucky to have some mentors, and after 7, 8, 9 years of that, felt really drawn to go after elk. I run a wilderness school and I have a coaching practice, so I tend to be pretty busy during the peak elk hunting season, which is, as you know, September, especially September, October. So that didn't really work for me because I was out running programs. So I decided some years back, I realized in Idaho we have a muzzleloader elk season, first week of December. And I said, muzzleloaders, those things can't be that hard. I'll get one and I'll become a muzzleloader hunter. And I like fidgeting with things and figuring stuff out and getting kind of techie and nerdy on that front. So I buy myself a muzzleloader, and oh my God, it was like a multi-year journey figuring these things out and what powder do I use and what bullets and sizing it and the caps and and then when I did finally get it figured out, I realized, oh my God, like it's completely normal in the world of muzzleloader huntings for you to pull that trigger and it not to go off. That happens. That's a normal part of muzzleloader hunting. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like it's already, and of course your range is way lower. It's like 100 yards max on a muzzleloader, and you'd be lucky to pull that off. So anyway, I had a couple years of chasing elk, got close, but didn't come together. And I had a hunting buddy who also got a muzzleloader. So this was 2021, I think. Yeah, it was my first when this happened. And we'd been going out every day, you know, and it's great in December because the first snows come here in Idaho, and that makes tracking easy, right? Fresh snow, and the tracking's fun and easy, and of course it's not deep enough that you're post-holing up there in the mountains, so it's still you're still able to move and all of that. And anyhow, we were hunting every day. We hadn't yet learned the lesson about needing to camp out on the mountain, so I was getting up at 2 a.m. Every morning, doing the hour drive, hiking out there, hours of hiking just to even get remotely close to where I could have a chance. And, it takes, I don't know, it took 3-4 days just to get a sense of where are these elk, what are their habits, patterns. And, it was really towards the end of the week before I really had any idea of what of having an actual chance. And anyway, so it's the last day. I go out there. I did have a strong suspicion about where they'd be. I positioned myself well, and I was very close. I basically, what I found out later was after sitting for the dawn, I was just a matter of probably 15 yards away from where I needed to be to have a shot. So I get up as maybe 8:30, and check it out. And sure enough, here's a couple of fresh elk beds. And I'm like, oh my God, I was so close. It's just heartbreaking. But it's good. It's like, oh, okay. I was also concerned because, as you probably know, your chances of getting an elk are best at dawn and the hours immediately around dawn. And so once you get by, I don't know, 9 a.m. or so, your chances drop, right? And I should say, statistically, if you look at Idaho Fish and Game, right, this is worth naming. New successful elk hunters are such a small thing. It's like, oh God, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it's like, I calculated it. It was you had basically a 1% chance. A new elk hunter in Idaho, statistically, it's like you have like a 1% chance of successfully getting your first elk. If you look at how many people buy tags and the whole thing.
That sounds slightly high, just because
it might be
high. The overall success rate is like 8% in our zone. And right. so that's overall. I think it's, ranges between 8. I've seen as high as like 15 depending on the year. But yeah, I mean, for the new elk hunter to go out there and try and figure this out, it's remarkably hard.
It's an uphill battle.
Yes. I wish I would have known that before I picked up all my equipment. I may have backed out of it before I got started.
Yeah. Well, I did have some advantage though, because we run a wilderness school, and one of the things we teach and that I've been studying for decades is wildlife tracking. So I'm trained in that, and that did give me a leg up. So following these elk, I decided, okay, well, fresh snow, I've got fresh tracks, easy to follow these two elk. I'm just going to follow these two, and maybe I'll sneak up on them and have an opportunity. I still wasn't quite sure how fresh are these. I was pretty sure they were right there, but I wasn't 100%. On my aging skills, my track aging skills, like they could have been an hour in front of me, or they could have been like 6 hours in front of me, which makes a big difference when you're hunting.
Yeah.
Well, I follow them down, and sure enough, I find the spot where they cross my trail, and there I see their footprints on top of my footprints that I made at whatever it was, 5 a.m. getting in there. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now I know I'm within an hour or two. This is worthwhile. So I spend the next, 3-4 hours hiking up, this intense physical exhaustion. And you got the pack and got the muzzleloader, and of course, at any moment they could be right over the next hill, and you never know. So I'm doing my best to like go fast enough that I don't, lose them, and yet slow enough that I have an opportunity. I'm coming up this finger ridge, up this peak where I had been before, and when elk travel the ridges, they don't typically travel on the top of the ridge. They'll travel just to one side of it or another, so they have a little bit of protection. They're not silhouetted. So I'm following them. That's what they're doing. I get to a point where I hit an intersection, and I've still got the elk trail in front of me. And there's it's like a plus sign, like a standard 4-way intersection. And there's another elk trail crossing it, horizontally. And I'm taking a close look at those tracks, and I'm like, man, that's definitely 2 elk, and they look very, very similar. I'm pretty sure it's the same elk, but I'm not 100%. I'm like 90% sure. And I'm thinking, I think they kind of did like a cloverleaf kind of thing where they loop back around. And I was like, do I take the risk or not? Because if I take the risk, if I just keep going straight, that's the safe thing. But if I turn left and take the shortcut, if it is them, that could get me. That could be significant. That could get me right on them. Well, I don't want to risk it too much, so I follow. I take the safe choice. I follow the cloverleaf around. Sure enough, it is them. And as I'm coming back around, now approaching that same intersection, there's another set of elk tracks that wasn't there like 3 minutes ago, and they're running. I'm like, oh shit. So I go up. Sure enough, there's the 2 elk beds. They had been watching me while I was initially deliberating at the intersection, and when I went to do the loop, they bolted. And I'm just like, oh my God, these things are so smart. Like this is they completely schooled me. You
feel like Elmer Fudd. You feel like total like Elmer. Like, oh my gosh, that cartoon makes so much more sense now.
I know, and I'm like, yeah, some tracker, Tim. Nice job, tracker. But it was so amazing, Kenny. I followed him just a little bit. I knew I had bumped him, and there was no use following him. But man, to see the leaps they were making, they were taking like 20-foot leaps down 10-foot cliffs, the way I would hop down the stairs.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, just to like get down to where they were, that's like a 15-minute process for me to scale down this cliff, that they did in like a quarter second or whatever. Yeah. I mean, it was so impressive, those animals, and to think about how big they are, and I mean, they're closer in size to a horse than they are a deer.
Yeah.
And they're so elusive. How could they be that big and yet that invisible on the mountain? Yeah. They're just ghosts up there.
Totally. Yeah. It's magic. Yeah. It's cool.
So I continue on up the ridge. I knew that where I was headed was a potentially good spot, and because the elk's pattern was they would come down at night, feed, and then they'd head back up in the morning, and that's what these 2 had been doing, of course. So it also taught me a thing or two about, just how I'm holding myself, how quietly I'm walking, the level of awareness. I mean, I've had moments we probably all have as hunters, of deep awareness where you're really keyed in, the mind is quiet, the senses are peaked, and you're really in that flow. And that's not, that just doesn't happen all the time. As a hunter, we get distracted. I certainly do. Yeah. So this schooled me, it humbled me, but it was effective in that it dropped me into that state. And so I got even more quiet and even more aware. And I really just hit this flow state of the quiet mind and the full senses peaked. And I'm just making my way up this finger ridge, knowing, okay, at any moment, and I'm like ready, it's like I'm mentally prepared at any moment, boom, safety off, aim, fire.
Yeah.
And I go for maybe another half an hour. Sure enough, I find another set, this time of 3 elk, a small group, and those cow elk like to do that this time of year. And I'm following it's up and down, little mini peaks. And it was maybe about an hour later. I think it was right around 12 noon. I come up and I'm just really slow in that flow. And just right over that edge, and boom, there's 3. And of course, I wasn't being perfectly quiet, right? There was snow, and the snow is such, it's that quality where it doesn't matter how slow you put your foot down, you're going to compress that snow, and it's going to make some amount of noise.
Yeah.
But I was minimizing it. So when I came over the edge and I saw them, the lead cow, she was standing, looking straight at me. She had heard me coming in, but I was quiet enough that I hadn't spooked him. And, instantly the heart rate, boom, 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 the adrenaline starts flowing, my heart rate goes up. I'm like, okay, this is it. This is like years in the making, and this is my moment. About 40 yards out. So I just slowly come down, take a knee. I just go into that automatic body memory, and all the practice comes into play. And of course, it's Idaho, so there's no scopes. These are open sights, yep. And I just, frankly, I don't have a lot of clear memory of this moment. I just went into that automatic,
that
automatic body memory, and I just down to one knee, held it steady. And with the muzzleloader, you get this big blast of smoke, so you can't see. Yeah. Unlike normal hunting, you can't see the animal's reaction.
Yeah.
And that's really key for the non-hunters out there. Depending on how the animal bodies move, you know if you got a hit or not. Well, I didn't see anything. But the smoke clears. The one I shot at was gone, and the other two are still standing there. And I'm like, wow. Too bad my hunting buddy's not with me right now. He could have gotten another one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know how the story ends, and I'm very, very glad that didn't happen.
Well, yes. Yeah, exactly. So I wait. I give it 20, 25 minutes. Called up my sons, who you know, and my wife. I just shot an elk. Is it down? I don't know. All excited. Go down, follow it, and sure enough, it had gone, I don't know, 50 yards or so, and she was laying right there. And this is 4,000 feet. I'm 6 miles from the truck. It's December. It was a clear day, and it was 12:30, 1 o'clock, midday. And it's the end of the week. I'd been pushing myself really hard. Yeah. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm done. This is what you think. Like you just, and I again never taken an elk. Never been with anyone who's taken an elk before. All I had heard, well, they're about 3 times the size of a deer, so I can handle a deer just fine. It's just like 3 deer, okay.
Sure.
No way.
It is staggering.
Oh my god. I'm so elated. I'm so thankful. And with the hunt, it's like there's that mix, right, of like in tremendous joy for successfully meeting my goal.
Yeah.
And a lot of sadness that, wow, this animal has died, and just that respect and that gratitude and that seemingly paradoxical mix of emotions that comes, and for me, it just comes down to love and respect, and wow, how amazing that this animal has given itself, for me and my family. But I had my moment and gave thanks and called up my buddy Josh and he's like, was that you? I was like, that was me. I elked down, and he was super stoked. It's like 2 or 3 hours for him to make it up to where I'm at, and I mean, like it took that entire time just to gut it. Yeah. Right. And it was like a process that takes, I don't know, 5 minutes with a deer or whatever.
Yep.
And it's like a multi-hour process for me to get 120 pounds of gut and organs out of the cavity. And such a big deal. And I could call my family, and so they just insisted on coming up, and okay, great, and I sent them a pin, and I had no idea, Kenny, but and you know how this story goes, but for the next basically 12 hours, we wound up in a survival situation up on the mountain. It took, by the time my family got up there, it was dark. We were still maybe a third of the way through processing the animal in a manner that we could pack it out. It's a huge process. Again, none of us had ever done this, but we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And it was midnight before we were actually ready to start traversing things. Then my family had brought sleds up, so I'm thinking, okay, fine, now it's easy. We got 100-pound, 50-pound bags of meat. We got our sleds. There's 5 of us. But I'm exhausted. I'm trashed.
Yeah, right.
My wife wasn't doing well, and so we start the process. And I'm thinking, okay, sleds, snow on top of the mountain. This will be easy, right? No way. I mean, it's up and down, and there's rocks, and these sleds are ridiculously heavy, and we've got our packs and our guns, and it's like we spent like an hour and made it maybe 100 yards.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like this is not, it's not like we got a smooth, easy trail to all perfectly downhill. So we go, and then it's like 1 a.m. We decide, okay, there's no way we're making it down. We've got to cache the meat. Another hour and a half long process to hoist 200-some pounds of elk meat up into cedar trees up on this peak. There's cougars and wolves around, and finally get that up, and now it's like, okay, it's like 2 a.m. I've got my whole family with me. The family communications breaking down. Thank God my buddy Josh was there. Because you know how it is when you have one other person, it saves the day, and like we're not going to all turn into demons on each other, you know.
Yes, right, exactly.
So thank God for Josh. And Janine told me something. She said, because we were going down, and flashlights are dying, and batteries on the phones are dying, and I'm a pretty good navigator, I like to think, but there was something that happened that night, man. I just lost my capacity to navigate. And I told Josh, I said, Josh, you gotta take the lead here. And Janine said, she's like, Tim, that was my wife. She said, that's the only time in my entire life I've seen you, not acknowledge that you're not capable of, backcountry navigating. And she said, when I saw you do that, I knew we were in trouble. And she said, that was the moment. She said, that was the moment I knew we were going to spend the night on that mountain. But I hadn't come to that realization yet. So I was still kind of, holding on to, well, we're going to get out of here. And, within the next half hour, we made the call. We're like, okay, we need to sleep. And of course, we don't have tents. We don't have sleeping bags. Yeah. We've just got basic like day packs with day gear. Yeah. We've got like a first aid kit, a little emergency gear. Now, this is so interesting, right? Because my wife and I run Twin Eagles Wilderness School. Right. All about nature
perfectly
connection.
Equipped for this, yeah.
and we teach wilderness survival. Yeah. And we've been doing this for 25 years. And yet, the truth is I had never personally been in a true survival situation. I put myself out intentionally.
Yeah, you've done some by choice. Yeah, for sure.
And training kind of thing. But this was a first. And Josh is one of our longtime staff. We've raised our boys with us. So, if anybody can do it, it's us. And
right. You are the perfect people. You are. Yeah, exactly. So
I know it. Yeah. So we make a makeshift camp up against this big granite boulder, use it as a fire reflector wall, start a fire. The fire reflects off that boulder wall and reflects back, and when we put our sleeping area right in there. So we were being smart about it. We put evergreen boughs down to elevate us up off the ground so the earth wouldn't suck all the heat out of our bodies. And then basically between Josh and I and Janine, we took turns tending the fire. And it was so fun. River and Forth, our sons, just crashed, and we'd run out of water, amongst other things. So Janine was carefully taking like my steel clean canteen water bottle, and we're melting snow, and like, okay, but it's a slow process. And I think it was like somewhere deep in the night, one of my sons wakes up and staggers around and knocks the water bottle down that she had carefully prepared all that water. It goes right into the fire, almost puts the fire out. Like, oh, we lost the fire and the water. Oh my God, And but we brought it back together, and we made it through that night, and it was an incredible bonding experience. And in the morning, hiked down, and we could all see, and we had our wits back with us, and took a day, rested, came back with Josh and another buddy. We went back up there got the meat, and sure enough, man, there were cougar tracks circling that cache of elk meat up there. But we got it all down. And it was incredible, though, man. It was a life-changing experience. It was like my initiation into becoming a true elk hunter. And I did get elk the following 2 years. Almost got one this past. Yeah. But a lot of lessons there. A lot of lessons. And a lot, it's one of those stories that's kind of hellish when you're going through it. But boy, oh boy, you look back and it's just like, man, that's living fully right there.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, like you said, there's so many lessons to be learned about that, and then how it translates into everything else, as far as like, you just kind of like, if you stay focused, you kind of keep your wits about you. You don't panic. Like, there's just so many lessons, I think, that, I've learned it so much through exercise and through my own hunting adventures too, but like, it's the same kind of thing. I think it's all very universal in the same principles. Yeah. And you really can only learn it by experiencing it, which you acknowledge. You're probably one of the most, you are definitely the most experienced, outdoors person I know, for survival wise. And yet you were kind of like, this is going to be different. Like, so, with the practice, that's great, but the true experience is where you're going to learn those lessons.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. And I think you're speaking to something really important with survival. One of the trick questions I like to ask my students is, okay, what's the number one survival priority? And some hands go up, oh, fire. Others, oh no, it's shelter. Some will say food, or some water. But of course, all those answers are wrong, and the correct answer is attitude.
Totally.
Like it's how our mindset is, how we're conducting ourselves. The people who actually get in trouble out there are the ones who basically freak out and are not able to stay centered when they're out there. And so staying calm, having your wits about you is absolutely key. And of course, having a group makes that easier.
Yeah.
But we were very clear on that. And the truth was, it's not like we had a storm. I mean, we were going to be okay. And I think we knew that it wasn't like a crazy survival situation that some people go through. But nonetheless, a really important learning experience.
Yeah, I think that's such a perspective dependent. I think that a lot of people would say, okay, middle of December or early December, middle of the night, like that's a pretty extreme thing for most people.
True. For most people, yeah.
Yeah. And we've actually had this conversation in so many different ways on this podcast with different environments, like whether it's, jiu-jitsu, like you're having somebody putting their knee on your lungs and your chest. And like, if you freak out, you're going to be in way worse trouble than if you just relax. And if I've done a lot of free diving. If you hold your breath and freak out and panic, like you're going to hold your breath for 27 seconds. If you relax, you can do it for 4 or 5 minutes. So I think that's like that, the universality of just keeping your wits about you and calming down and making good decisions is just such a good lesson, regardless of how you learn it.
I love this point because, the reality was all 5 of us had significant experience in the wilderness, and we were very comfortable being in the backcountry, even in December. And so it didn't feel like, subjectively, it didn't feel like a huge edge to be out there. But are there people out there that if they were in that same situation, the exact same situation, they'd feel really differently about it? Absolutely. And so what's the key there is how do we prepare and train ourselves, when things are good, and how do we lean in proactively and train, whether it's the gym or, martial arts or wilderness survival, what have you, so that when those moments come, and I think they do come for all of us in one way, shape, form, or another, we're prepared and we can handle it, and we can be a leader, and we can move things forward in a good way.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk about my experience and with Garrison's experience with your father-son program that you host. I think it's Memorial Day weekend every year, right?
Yep.
So
and now we've actually started doing two a year because it's so popular. Yeah.
Oh, good, cool. Yeah, I mean by far, Garrison's 11. That was the coolest multi-day experience. Just the stretch of time, the experience that we had together, far and away, that's the coolest thing we've ever done. And so there is some magic in the mystery of what happens, but I think we can elaborate on some of the specifics. I think I'll let you lead that just so I can put you in charge. About
So this is one of our programs we run through Twin Eagles Wilderness School. The school's been around for 20 years. I started this program, I think, 8 or 9 years ago. Actually, at the request of Ben Greenfield, and I think you know.
Oh yeah,
Ben. Ben's been a student of mine and I of his, and it was Ben. He has twin sons. They were 6 years old at the time. Right now they're 17. So this is 11 years ago, and it was him who first asked me to start this program. So it's a 5-day overnight program for fathers and their 9 to 13-year-old sons. And we come up to our location. We run it at our location we've been running camps at for years, at Medicine Circle up north of Priest River. And we take up to 10 families, so 20 participants. And I've got a staff. It's not just me. It's our staff, all male staff, guys who have been trained in this work.
Yeah, wonderful staff.
Yeah, and the intention is really twofold. One, first and foremost, it's to support the father-son relationship, to deepen the father-son bond.
Yep.
2, to do that through connecting with nature and other fathers and sons and mentors and the earth. And so the first 3 days, we do basic wilderness skills. We're fire making, shelter building, just kind of classic introduction to all of this work. Wild plants. I think we might have done some morel mushrooms when
we did.
One,
we were fortunate to find quite a few, I believe.
Yeah. And we do, but we're not. I think one of the things that distinguishes us from other wilderness schools, we're not just focused on the quote unquote hard skills.
Right.
We have the sit spot that we have. What we have you guys do, where you go out and you just quietly sit in nature attempting to quiet your mind and be present in the senses, really, that's a great example of a practice that a person can do. I've done hours and years and years and years worth of sit spots, and that's part of what makes a person get comfortable outside in nature and not feel like an alien or not feel like an outsider out there, to make a relationship with the earth. We do really cool old kind of earth-based scout stuff where you get covered up in camouflage and natural and hide on. We had the boys hide on you, Dad. It's so fun, and then we get of course the boys love this, and that's one of the big things. And I know this as a dad. It's like we get so busy with life. When do we really play with our sons?
Totally.
And so I facilitate that. And you guys get to do that, and the dads get to hide on the boys, and the boys love it. And I also do I do a father's circle, as part of that. Where after dinner, right when all the boys are ready for action and ready to run, and what does Dad want to do? Dad wants to kick back and chill out,
Yeah.
So I just lean into that, and I'm like, okay, I take all my 20-year-old staff. You guys take the boys. I'm taking the dads, and we do a father's circle, and we do some open heart sharing, right, and talk about what it is to be a dad, and the challenges and the successes, and connect in a deeper way. And through the years, man, so many of the dads have spoken about how significant that is. And as men, we don't have places where it's safe to open up and share our emotions. And, there's kind of this old narrative of real men don't cry and all of that. And I know that's starting to change, but that's a big value that I hold strong to in this world, is creating spaces for men to open up in that way. Yeah. And the bonding that happens there is huge. And, a lot of guys will say, wow, that was one of the most meaningful parts of this whole thing. Didn't even expect it. And anyhow, so the whole thing, we do that for a few days, and then the whole thing leads up to a final overnight, the last night, where we leave the kitchen and the cook behind. We take just a little bit of gear with us, and I take you guys out and have you put all the skills to the test. And you've got to build a primitive shelter and make a fire the old way, flint and steel, and you have a whole night, out there. And of course, that's really awesome. And then when we get back, we wrap it up, and each family has an opportunity to exchange an honoring, where the son honors the father and the father honors the son. Of course, by that time, there's so much connection and goodness going on, and usually everyone's crying, and oh my God, and just that opportunity to slow down. When do our sons get that? When do our sons really get to feel seen? And hey, we're going to stop everything and just acknowledge you right now. And when do we get to feel that way as dads?
Yeah.
I think that's all too uncommon in our world. And so I make a point of really making space for that. Yeah. That's my short overview. But I want to hear from you, man. I mean, because it's been almost a year now. I mean, how do you look back on that?
It has been a year. And, that was it in the, largely the nuts and bolts. But I think what you described and what we were talking about with the vulnerabilities and the survival, that was so good to experience with Garrison together and both learn things. And it's hard. There's no pull the ripcord and we're going under, we're outside, we're in the mud. It rained, I think it was the muddiest, rainiest
that's right.
you've ever had. The muddiest, rainiest camp ever.
We did. We did.
Yeah, we pulled into camp and it was no, this is what we're doing. This is not. And again, I think that persevering through that, well, nobody was going to be in danger, and I think we talked about that quite a bit. Where it's hey, look, this is going to get hard, but no one will be in danger. If at any point we feel that way, we're going to solve the problem. But still, it was a challenge, and to experience that where Garrison, I think sons hopefully look up to their fathers okay, they know all the things, and I think we sometimes feel like we have to play that role.
Yeah.
It was nice, so nice. I'm pretty outdoorsy dude, but I learned a lot. I got my butt kicked in a lot of, there's learning how to make fire. I was I got this. Nope, do not got this in the middle of May with limited equipment. I think there was some really cool. There's just so many lessons. One of the ones I'm thinking of now though is watching him realize that it's okay not to know everything, and it's okay to learn, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to have all those things. I think so many of us, in which we talk about around the circle, the ability to show that vulnerability is harder and harder, I think, sometimes these days. So Yeah.
Well, and there's such an important connection. I can't help but think of the gym right now.
Totally.
For me, and it's probably different for you, being a big, athlete that you are. But for me, frankly, Kenny, it was super vulnerable for me to step into that gym. I'm not the gym. I've never been the gym guy.
Yeah.
And so I had to face a lot of feelings about that. It was a big step for me to step in those doors. It really was. And, or if you feel out of shape or maybe you're overweight, to go in there, that's a vulnerable act to go in there and be like, I'm going to face this. I'm going to deal with my body. I'm going to get in there, 3 days a week or 5 days a week or whatever it is. And yet, I guess, I don't know, I'm thinking about the listeners. Like, I just really want to encourage people, like, the more different ways, diverse ways in our lives, we can find ways to lean into those edges, the better lives we have.
Totally.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, completely. And I think that once you experience that, you persevere through the vulnerability, it empowers you to be able to do so many more things in the future.
Yeah.
And what I don't think I'd ever spend a night outside of a tent overnight, like where I was like, okay, I live here. Like I don't have a traditional, you go through the routine, you throw the tent up, you get your food, you do the thing. Like there's a feeling of protection, even with the little, the stupid thin wall of the tent. Like there feels like there's something there. But spending a night without that and having to create it yourself, like there's a whole new layer to that. But having not done it before, like it was a little bit like, oh man, what's this going to be like? How's this different? And now having done it, like that doesn't really intimidate me anymore. And I think the same thing for the gym, or the same thing for any experiences that I wish people would pursue more, that they're just afraid to do. Yeah. Like I think it's scary. All of us are scared.
For sure.
And but once you cross that threshold and realize, okay, like that wasn't so bad. Everybody else was scared too. Like they're all alive.
Right, exactly.
I think that's just it opens up so many opportunities to experience life in a better way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, true on so many levels.
And especially with how you guys do it. Like again, I can't brag about your program enough, but like the way you learn those things. And I think again, I learned a ton, but Garrison's empowerment through that stuff now too, where he learned how to properly use a knife, how to make fire, how to build I've seen so much growth in his love for the outdoors, of learning just those little things with the way that you guys brought that down to his level, not down to his level, but like, you just educate them in a way. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Well, I'm such a big believer in skills trumping gear, right? Yeah. Like there's so much focus in the outdoor industry on, you got to have this knife and you got to have that backpack. And look, I can geek out on all that too, and that's great. But man, like the best gear you can possibly have is good training and good skills. And how can we do more with less? I think that's probably what this world needs. I think what this world needs more of is, we don't need more stuff, for God's sake. Look at us. I mean, it's 2025. We've got AI and supercomputers in our pockets, but what does it mean to build our capacity as human beings? What does it mean to build that grit, that resilience, that love of learning, that willingness to be vulnerable, and our skills. And when people do go through that, as you're saying, it's like, and again, whether it's the gym, whether it's the wilderness, what have you, we become more confident. We feel better about ourselves, because we've demonstrated to ourselves that we are competent. And that's the best way to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a notorious overpacker. Like just whether I'm traveling, whether I'm hunting, whatever. Like I bring, it's like, okay, well the 2 is 1 is none for sure. Like that's me. I want water filter on date, whatever. I bring way too much stuff. Yeah. And that's always been a bit of a comfort. I think it's a comfort, safety, whatever thing. And so when you came around, you give us a list, like when we do our overnight, like you can bring these things. I was like, what? Like,
it's very limited.
I think I'm going to cheat. Like I didn't, but that definitely crossed my mind. This is too little. I don't know I'm not sure how to handle this.
Right.
But again, like that really, to go through that and walk away from camp with less stuff than I definitely wanted, even as a what I felt like was something I needed for safety. Was such a good experience, like just to say, okay, yeah, you're right. Like this, I don't need this, and sure enough, we were fine.
You'll be okay.
Yeah,
I love doing that, man. I'm thinking back to raising my sons when they were a little younger, kind of in the preteen stage. I had a thing where when they were right at about 12 years old, I took them both out, just one at a time, on these camping trips, and I would always they wouldn't know this, but I would intentionally leave one key piece out, like, and we'd get out there, and I'd be like, oh, look at that. I forgot the tent, you know? And they're like, what? And they kind of have their freak out moment, you know? I'm like, well, good thing we know how to build shelters, you know? I was like, better get to work. Cold, look, it's going to be a cold night, you know? And they, you know, oh my God, you know, or oh, I forgot the lighter and matches, you know? You got a knife, get to work carving a bow drill kit. We're going to rub sticks together until we get fire, you know, or whatever it is. And they would kind of love it and hate it, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of mixed relationship. But man, that kind of thing over the years, it's like it's really built up into some competency. And they're so, at 15 and 18 now, they're so competent in the woods. It's not even funny. And there's so much confidence and competence, and just like they know they're fine. And of course, yeah, their dad runs a wilderness survival school. So
yeah, but you know, I can speak to that too. Like I know River fairly well. I met him. I got to know him a lot more on that week. But we'd actually met, ironically, hunting.
Oh, right.
We were hunting the same spot. We didn't know each other at all, and we happened to bump into each other at this same hunting spot. Anyways, like my interactions with him before I met him on that week was just like he's just such a nice, mature, great kid. And then during that week, like, I think that maturity that he's attained through some of that experience in the backcountry and with you, and some of the self-reliance and resilience, like he's just got that beyond his years. Yeah. And I think it speaks to all the things that we've talked through. Like he's just, you know, he's probably lived through a lot of stuff that was practiced with your input. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, well, and there's the skill side of things, which we've talked a lot about, but there's also, you know, what I refer to as mentoring and that side of things. And at our school, we focused not just on the skills, as I was saying, but on the what some would refer to as the soft skills.
Yeah.
And I was always trained, you know, I had the blessing of having a handful of traditional Native American elders as teachers in my early adulthood. And their approach to education, right, Kenny, like how they taught, was very different than what I grew up with in whatever public and private school. And so, and you can't really even call it teaching. We call it mentoring, you know. If you look, it's kind of interesting. If you look at the roots of those words from like etymology, right, to teach means to put in. Like, I have something you don't, I'm going to give it to you. And it more refers almost like data transfer, right? Yeah. But to mentor, it's the core opposite. It means to draw out. Now, why would a teacher or a mentor be drawing something out of a student? Well, what we're drawing out is their potential. Cool. We're drawing out the best of that person. Yeah. Right? Helping them face their fears, helping them grow. That's actually the focus. The focus is not so much on the skill building. Yes, that's part of it. It's going to happen. But we've got a real human being in front of us here. How can we help this person along on their path? So, you know, my son, certainly growing up with the wilderness school, they've had the blessing of having lots of mentors who showed up for them, helping to draw out the best in them. Not to say that it's been perfect, because we've certainly had our fair share of struggles, like anyone. But, you know, something pretty magical happens when kids get a lot of good mentoring and their needs get met in a deep way. When they hit, you know, 13, 14, 15, they naturally, what I find is they want to give back. They want to do that. They've been helped enough that they want to give back naturally. Like, well, you guys helped me out. I want to give back to the next generation. I hear that all the time, and that's really the case with River. And so, yeah, by the time they're 15, 16, 17, man, they're actually incredible instructors, not just because they know the skills, and yes, he does, but because they can help draw out the best in somebody else. And that's kind of one of my biggest goals as a school leader, as a community leader, as a mentor myself, is how do I cultivate that in our people? You know, that's the kind of world I want to live in.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. That's awesome. I love it. And it's Like you mentioned something about AI a minute ago, and I think that that's like it's such a like, oh man, what's this going to do to the world? How's this? But I think that like the lack of human experience that comes through being mentored by somebody who's been there, who turns around, or who vice versa. Like, if you turn around and say, look, I've been here, like, here's my hand, like, let me lead you and show you how you can do this too. Like that, I think is still so, like that was to bring like to your program, like to go out and experience that in person and go learn those things together was just so, like, to have that interrelational stuff was just so magical. Yeah. And I think also like the world's going to probably be different, but also the same in this same type of stuff. So
yeah, and we all have a need for that. And I don't know, I just see that kind of thing getting more and more rare. Yeah. As technology progresses, and AI and all the rest of it. And so that's such an important thing. I feel so strong about holding true to, holding strong with, cultivating, developing. Yeah,
that's awesome. I know you got to get going. I do too. So I want to, but dude, thank you so much. Like this is
so fun, man. I could go for another hour easy.
I know. Believe me, that's why I'm always watching the clock, because I could do this for days and days and days and days. So thanks a lot. Do you have any spots for the program coming up?
No, that one it's so popular. We've got a huge waiting list actually.
Cool.
But
good.
We are just about to announce our 2026 Memorial Day weekend father-son program. So I know that's a ways out, but that is about to come out. So if people are hearing this and they're interested, check it out. It's Twin Eagles Wilderness School out of Sandpoint, Idaho.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and people come from all over the country. In fact, I think we were one of the only. Yeah. We were only Sandpoint. No, that's not true. There was two families from Sandpoint.
Yeah. Yep. But between all the podcasts I've been doing, we've gotten a lot of people hear about this, and people spread the word. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, man. And I want to say just publicly here, thank you so much, man, for the gym and just the space you hold. That it really has helped me. It was a big step, as I said. It was a vulnerable step for me to walk in there, and you made it so easy. And I'm in there. I try and get in there 3 days a week. I probably should increase that to a little more. But it does so much for me and for our community. And I love the community there and everything that's happened. So really want to acknowledge that, Kenny.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you very much. I probably feel like you probably feel where it just lights you up. Like I just seeing you and hearing what you just said, like that's the best thing in the world I could ever hear and see and witness and be a part of. So thanks. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
All right, Tim. Talk to you soon. See you in the gym.
All right. Sounds good, man. See you there.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. As Tim mentioned, that program sells out super early, but they will be doing it again next year, so 2026. And they do a mother-daughter program as well, which I have not been to, but I'm sure is amazing. So if you are a mother and want to do something like that with your daughter, you should definitely sign up. If you're a father and you want to do it with one of your sons or both your sons, definitely do the same thing. It was, again, like I said in the podcast, one of the best things I have done with Garrison by far. So, yeah, and if you listen to that and you want to be more like Tim and get more fit for all the things that you do outside, email me, Kenny at Sandpoint Strength. Go to our website, sandpointstrength.com, and get signed up for a no-sweat intro. Happy to help you out. And also don't forget, we are brought to you by Momentous Supplements. LiveMomentous.com. Discount code Sandpoint Strength. All one word will get you 15% off. All right. See you guys soon.